Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Inclusive Ship Show, the place to get practical insights to make inclusion happen in the business world. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here today with Alberto Platz. Alberto, a warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me here and to invite me.
And Alberto is heading the Global Talent Acquisition and Engagement at Swarovski. Well, I'm a big fan of Swarovski. As you can see, I have Swarovski earrings, ring, it's really a big pleasure to have Alberto here. And let me share with you a few words about Alberto. So Alberto has been working for over 31 years at Swarovski. The first 11 years he was based in Barcelona, managing the Spanish and Portuguese markets, and then 13 years holding several positions as sales director in the European and Middle Eastern territories. In 2012, he joined the corporate HR team as the global director of engagement, and in addition, in 2015, he took over the internal and external HR communication, the talent acquisition, and inclusion and diversity topics from a global strategic perspective. And Alberto, my very first question to you is, how did you get interest in inclusion and diversity? What's your personal story with this topic?
Absolutely. Being so many years in sales means being so many years in contact with people. And I think that's my interest where it starts. People are amazing. And meeting colleagues from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions, all those demographics that now we are listening on the topic of diversity is so great. This is the diversity part that I enjoyed most. But on the other side, listening and asking questions gave me the opportunity also to learn a lot. This is the inclusive side that I love, because it is not enough to be with many different people. If I don't ask, if I talk too much, like today, sorry, but if I talk too much and I don't ask and listen, then I don't take really the most benefit of the diverse people that I'm around. So I love to be with people. I cannot imagine myself being alone.
And well, when we talk about inclusion and diversity, it can be it's such a broad topic. There are so many different themes within, this area. Do you have a favorite inclusion and diversity topic?
Look, it depends what we are talking for me, because if it's around diversity, I don't have any favor around diversity. Around inclusion, yes, it's the leadership, it's the inclusive leadership style, because this is what will create the most impact into our companies and especially into our teams. I love to see how my teams working with me enjoy coming to the work. I think that the leadership or the inclusive leadership style is what makes me more happy, when I can really see being inclusive, consciously inclusive, what is the impact into my team.
And how do you define inclusive leadership?
Well, that was very interesting. Very interesting. Most probably must be someone who really wants to use the different ideas that are around me in a way to extract the best of each of us. So inclusive leadership is the person that leads a team in a way that almost doesn't give even direction, that even by asking and by listening, manage really the team performs at their best. Inclusive for me is listening and it's asking.
Now, Alberto, I guess, when you are driving inclusion and diversity in an organization, we can come across resistance from people.
Yeah.
Not everybody is naturally convinced about the value of inclusion and diversity. What is your killer argument to convince others about the value of inclusion and diversity?
Being a salesman, I usually think on the audience, who is going to listen to me. And unluckily, this is probably a little bit stereotyping what I'm going to say, but unluckily, most of the audience that I need really to convince are males. Females are much more open and ready for inclusion and diversity. So being me talking to males, the sport analogy is fantastic. So I really use the sport analogy. And I simply explain them, and I like football, and I'm from Barcelona, so I will not tell you which club I'm fan. But if you have in your team the best football player, this does not guarantee success in the team. Even if you have all the players, the best players in each of the positions because they are specialized, this still does not guarantee us the success. What really will guarantee the success is how they collaborate together, if they have a common objective, if they support each other, if they understand where the others are struggling, where the others are strong, and if they really work together. This will guarantee success. I think that this analogy helps to explain that not because having the best individuals, you will perform the best.
Alberto, that's brilliant. It's the very first time that I see such analogy. You know, that's really brilliant.
I love sports. I love sports. I still practice sports today.
Yeah.
I think for males it's good.
And what is the most effective initiative that you've ever taken in this field?
Look, in fact, it's for me, it's what I did. And I did it by having pain of my decisions. In real life, and I can share it with you, I'm very open in this. I remember that I had to hire a sales manager in Russia. And because 3, 4, 5 years ago or before I had to hire this person, I traveled a lot in Russia, especially in the times where the borders were opening. It was very complex. It was very difficult in geography, in the distance, the language, the ambience, the environment that we were finding. So what happens with Alberto? I thought this is not a job for a female. So, okay, I opened the position and I start to receive candidates, and I had candidates females logically and candidates male. And I automatically was pushing out the females. But I was realizing that the CVs, that the information from the females were much appealing to what I was looking for. And I was so lucky that my recruiting partner was a female. She opened me there and said, Alberto, why are you putting aside the females? She said, because I said to her, really, unconsciously, because I think this is not a job for a female. It's very hard. And she said to me, very simple, why you don't ask them? And I hired a female. I was so successful. From this moment, I decided that I never run interviews alone. But I don't run with colleagues, I run with female colleagues. Because in this way, I can limit it, my unconscious bias. I'm still biased, but I can limit it or decrease my unconscious bias. This is a thing that by pain, I'm doing always.
And how long ago did that happen?
This is already 7 years ago, I think, or even 10. I think it was 2007, sorry, no, 10 years. I'm very old in the company.
So you had
that. It was very sales oriented, you know, and in the jewelry industry where we are selling our products, in theory is very traditional. They say it's one of the most traditional businesses. You find really very male oriented people. I was totally biased, and it was a fantastic experience for me. Thanks to the female who was partnering with me, she said, simply ask them. And I asked them, and they said, what's the problem? And I was very successful with this person that we hired, still in the company.
It's a great real life experience that you just shared. And what's the most common objection that you come across? And how do you respond to that objection?
And here I'm talking about colleagues from business, not colleagues from my HR organization. Logically, I think that we all in HR understand that this is a very important topic. The colleagues from business usually come and say, this is a huge and complex problem. And they also say, anyway, Alberto, we are offering equal opportunities to everybody. What? And then it happens to me also again. Life story is one of the leaders told me, do we have a problem? And when I listened to this question, I said, we must have a problem. If you ask me this question, we must have a problem. Logically, this person was a male. And then I said, look, what we have is a great opportunity. And this is how we started the discussion and the dialogue. I mean, at the end, we need to start dialogues with our leaders, and we have to make them the life easy. It sounds a huge and complex project. It sounds, but we only need to recognize that it's not so huge and complex. What is long? It's a long journey. It needs time. We only need to be interested in the topic.
Alberto, I think that's genius, you know, what you've just said about, because to many people are completely unaware of, you know, the topic. They don't know what they don't know. They tell themselves and they tell others, where is the problem? And the way you have to respond it, you know, we have an opportunity here. Yes. That's genius.
Oh, thank you.
you know, it's really such a positive way, you know, to frame the whole topic. It's brilliant. And I find personally one of the most common objections I come across in this area is that people think that inclusion and diversity goes against the meritocracy principle. Like they say, we don't look at people's, you know, gender or cultural background or age. We just want to hire the best person for the job.
Yes.
In diversity and inclusion, it's positive discrimination. It's about quotas. I don't like this.
Yes.
How do you respond to that type of?
Okay, let's work with this, because this is one of the things that by listening to those business colleagues who are mentioning that, is they also ask it to me. I would then tell them, great, then please, I will go with facts. Please explain me the reasons why the upper we go in the career progression of our employees, the less females they find. This means that the females are worse than the males. Can you really prove it? This is the first thing. And then the reflection I do is, if you have 7 candidates applying for a job and 6 are males, most probably you will hire a male. So we have to start ourselves, challenging ourselves and saying, when I open a position, when I start, this is a moment of truth where I can increase my diversity in my team. I have to answer already my first questions. Do I want to have diversity? Why I'm going to have diversity? This will help me to be rich in the discussions, rich in innovation, faster, I don't know, more creative, all these things. When I recognize this, analyze my team, and then when I start the hiring process, I have to have candidates that really shows this diversity. It cannot be acceptable that because my recruiter presents me 3 male candidates, that I hire the best of the male candidates. Okay? So here is really, if it's true that we are meritocratic, then something we are doing wrong, because cannot be that in the career progressions we are losing females on the journey. It cannot be. There's something that we are doing wrong.
It's interesting to hear you, Alberto, because we are talking a lot about gender diversity. You're talking about the situation of female candidates or employees. In Swarovski, I imagine that your customer base must be very hugely female. And even for a company that has such a huge, it's very explicit, isn't it, the business case for at least gender diversity from a sales perspective. Even in an organization, in your case, you still have to do some convincing.
And sharing with you some figures, 85% of the entire employees at Swarovski are females, but this is not replicated as soon as you go into the career ladder in our company. I mean, we are doing logically better than other companies, but as you said, almost all the products that we are offering are mainly for females. It's very funny. We have also calculated that in our consumer base, almost 85% of the buyers are females. The other 15% are collaterals, because they are buying for the females. And we know that most probably they buy Swarovski for the females because the females were orienting to the collaterals, which are my friends, the males. Yes. So yes, you're right. I mean, it is not because my consumers are female, it's easier that in inclusion and diversity works. It's not because of that. It's because we want that inclusion and diversity works. And don't misunderstand me when I discuss with business, logically for them is the most easy to understand is the demographic gender. And gender is everywhere. If we would start, and because we are at the beginning of a journey, I recommend to start smaller. And then if we cover well gender, we are also covering well nationalities, age, and all these things. But let us start with something that is a little bit more concrete. If we would start with age, it would be also easier than, for example, if we would start with sexual orientations or with or religions. Or this will be much easier. So that's why you will heard me talking a lot about gender. But I think everything is included.
Okay. And what is the best way to respond to non-inclusive behaviors?
Oh, I like this question. Speak up. Be courageous, I think is the word.
Courageous.
And calm and speak up. So simply speak, because most of the times what I realize is that non-inclusive behaviors are unconsciously done. And it's so funny that sometimes by speaking up, you have even received thank you from the colleague who said, I didn't realize it. So thank you for speaking up. You give me great feedback. Feedback is a gift. Most of the time, the non-inclusive behaviors are unconscious. Because in general, we are good human people, in general.
Yeah, so people are not aware. Yeah,
That's what it means.
people don't mean to hurt other people, isn't it? Usually.
It
Yeah.
starts with me. Even when for example, I'm talking to you, I'm not English native speaker. Sometimes I'm translating from my local language to English and I already do mistakes unconsciously. It's not my intention. We have, for example, big problems with your language, it's French, or Portuguese, and also my language, which is Spanish or Catalan, where, we have too much male words, too much male words. And suddenly when we talk about managers, the next comma, he. And I correct all my colleagues and business colleagues as he or she, okay? Not because you're a manager, you always are a he, but in Spanish, it's normal, and in Portuguese and in German. And this makes our life very easy, very difficult, and I am learning to always use his and she's, or always use, comma, the manager. It's very simple. Maybe some people say, wow, it's boring to listen, Alberto. The manager that we are looking has this project. This is why the manager has to do this. Others would say, this is why he has to do this. And this he is male. And already creates my unconscious bias, wrongly messages.
Okay. And about mistakes to avoid on this journey, Alberto, what is the biggest mistake to avoid, when you want to drive inclusion and diversity?
So, thank you that you share before the questions, because these are not easy questions. They are very interesting questions. I was thinking, what is really the biggest mistake? Maybe it's thinking very global, because there can be many minor mistakes. Is when you think that you need inclusion and diversity to fix a problem. To fix a problem? No, you don't need to fix problems. Inclusion and diversity is not there to fix problems. It's when you talk about me and they, or they and us. Is when we talk about minorities versus majorities. This is, I think, the mistake that we are generating. Inclusion and diversity is all together. And I think that we have to propose the inclusion and diversity not to correct imbalances, but to make sure that the imbalances are not there. Very global said.
Yeah, no, but that's so profound. It's really profound, Alberto. And maybe that's one of the reasons why so many people they don't project themselves in diversity and inclusion initiatives, is because maybe we are talking to, as practitioners, the experts, we keep talking about only minorities, we miss the point about talking about everybody and everybody's differences. Yeah, that's very, very profound. And what's the most valuable piece of advice that you've ever been given in this field?
Patience. Patience. One step forward, maybe two back. 3 steps forward, maybe 1 back. Patience. It's not today I start and then in the next 3 months everything is written and we can already start to deploy our inclusion and diversity approach. It's a very long journey. Any company that I have tried to research externally who I can find best practices, what I found is a lot of patience and a lot of time in the background. Logically, ideally, if you have a top management support, works better logically, but this is not a must because not all the top managers are standing behind this project. So in our case, I prefer to find some of the ambassadors, some of the stakeholders that can become ambassadors and start small. Patient, start small, and take time. Taking time. Yeah. In your opinion, what's trendy now in this field? Yes, that's trendy now. I think that the entire discussion is trendy. Hopefully it's also being well sent the message outside. I think the entire inclusion and diversity is trendy. I think it's still not very clear for the business leaders to understand. For me, very easy to describe. Diversity is the metric. Diversity is what I can measure. Inclusion is the behavior. And because behavior is so relevant, it includes change of culture. Okay? And then it includes accountability, includes role modeling, includes not only commitment, but engagement. There's a big difference. People say, leaders say, don't worry, I'm committed. Say, no, it's enough. It's not enough. You have not to be committed. Commit is a good start, but you have to engage in the topic. Okay? But the trend today, the potential that we have is the technology that's in the background. Today, more than ever, we can start to apply technology to the diversity, but also to the inclusive figures into the different tools that we have. Crossing performance with development programs, crossing succession planning with performance rating, crossing engagement with, so we have so much data that what this can help us, the practitioners of inclusion and diversity, to present much stronger business cases to the business. If you have that correlates to this. If you have an inclusive leader, look how it correlates to business. Now we have the technology to prove it. Before it was very difficult. We were doing this. I told you, research, McKinsey. Now we can do it by ourselves.
Yeah, it's like big data applied to diversity and inclusion, isn't it? That's what you're saying. And is that something you are already doing at Swarovski?
We are investigating. I'm very proud because at the moment we are having a strong, finally, after 121 years, we are implementing our final people management platform. And we are starting to put together some data, and we are starting to get some surprises, very interesting surprises. But I also have a kind of colleagues that are creating dashboards that are even sexy. So it means that you want to go to the dashboard to see how it moves, how it grows, and so on. So it's not only putting data into a place, but also making it visibly sexy.
Yeah, and it's also the story. Sorry?
A little bit of marketing in the dashboards.
Exactly. It's also how you tell the story.
Yes.
That is behind the data, isn't it? So important.
Yes. And then the very high level dashboards, but then you can click in these dashboards and go a little bit deeper. You can go by country, you can go by demographic, you can go. Okay? And this is how we are trying, or how we are creating the awareness. The technology should help us to create the business case, a stronger business case. Will not make us more inclusive. Still, inclusive is behavior.
And what's your favorite book or TED Talk?
Okay, I have two. I want to share two things. I will start with the TED Talk. Many years ago, it was the TED Talk that I listened from Sheryl Sandberg, the COO, I think, from Facebook. The Lean In. Most probably all of us have listened to it. And specific from this is what I remember the most and created impact, and I even use it. If we have time, I share with you my experience. Is don't live before you live. This message was fantastic. The don't live before you live has created an impact to me enormous. If you want, I can give you more. Depends on the time. And the second.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh,
the second is Success as an Inclusive Leader. But there is a reason. First, is for me is one of the best books, but also because my friend Thijs invite me to read the book before even was printed and before even was in the market, asking me for feedback, for create a quote, which is included. You can find my quote in the book. But it forced me to go not one time through the read of the book, but many times in back and forth. And I enjoyed really a lot. I use it, guys. There is in the middle of your book, there is this, how do you call it, the tests, where I can test myself.
Like a self-assessment?
Yeah, the self-assessment. I use it. The first part is an introductory, and the second part is fantastic with so many examples focusing on the different diversity things. I enjoyed a lot this book. So I tell you from my heart. It's not because that this is for me the best. Okay.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad you find it useful. That's, the biggest compliment. If you think, it is.
And don't forget it. Don't live before you leave.
Don't leave before you leave. It actually, I still had the last question for you, which was about, what's your favorite quote?
Yes.
Would it be something else than don't leave before you leave?
Yes, no, there is one also that I like, and you will see, because I think that you remember that this was introduced to us when we were many years together from another company. I remember the quote that says, inclusion starts with I. And I think that's an incredible message, because it's true that the letter of inclusion is an I, but the I is me. So there cannot be inclusion if I'm not inclusive. And I like this quote, says, inclusion starts with I.
Do you know where it comes from?
It was a colleague that I don't know. Can we say it was not Philips? Do you remember from our forum many years ago?
I don't. Maybe EY. Yeah, we would have to find.
Yes.
Maybe let's ask one of our listeners, today if they.
But thank you to them, because this is one of them. For me, is the best quote. And when I use it with colleagues, they say inclusion starts with I. And say yes, it starts with I. Yeah. Sorry, with I, not with I. With I.
Yeah.
It's very
great. Well, Alberto, it's time to wrap up. It's been a great, great pleasure to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you to you for inviting me. Hope you enjoy it. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Thais.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody who listened to us today. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. And it would be great actually to find out, what did you enjoy the most? What resonated with you the most? Feel free to comment. And feel free to share this video, to like it, to subscribe to the channel if you want. And if you want to find out more about my work supporting companies on their inclusion journey, you can visit my site that is Declic International, DECLIC international.com. And I hope to see you at the next episode. Until then, embrace differences and make a difference. Bye. Bye, Alberto.
Bye. Thank you so much.